How we doing? Good to be back. Obviously, you kind of look at really the past 12 days or so. Two losses in 5 days is tough, but we're still kind of in the driver's seat of how we want the season to go. I think the biggest thing is ignoring the outside noise. There's still a lot of confidence and self-belief within this building on how we want this season to play out and what the success of it has to look like. And at the end of the day, it's on us as coaches, players, to take a hard look in the mirror and understand that we just got to get back to our roots and just do simple better at the end of the day. Success lives in simplicity. We talk about it, preach about it all the times. And at the end of the day, football is a very simple game complicated by man. And, it's on us to really get back to our roots, be better at the basics at the end of the day. And with that, we'll look to see if we can kind of stack some wins. But first, it starts back, getting back at home, U.S. Bank Stadium. Prime time, Sunday night football, excited. A good opponent coming in. So guys are geeked up about it. Should be a nice, well-rested team going into this thing. And away we go.
Just when you have a group of experienced players on this team, how do you feel like those guys are equipped to deal with some of the ups and downs? As you're mentioning, like 2 weeks ago, it feels a lot different than it does now, but feels like experience would help them kind of handle that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think these are the times, these are the times like we're just freaking 2-6, we're a 5-2 football team. This isn't true adversity that we just hit all of a sudden. And so, that's why you got to lean on that experience, the Gillies, the Hitmans, guys, the Griffins and Murphys. Offensive side, obviously, you got Sam. So, there's guys in this league who's dealt with true adversity. And, this right here that we're going through is just a little small bump in the road. I really wouldn't even call it a bump in the road. It's really just getting back to who we are, understanding what our identity is and our foundation and what we built. But, leaning on the experience is going to be huge for us. Again, it's a confidence and a belief that we have in this building. We know who we are. We know what we're about. And at the end of the day, we just have to eliminate the self-inflicted wounds, because no one can stop us other than us.
Just in terms of Ryan Wright, it feels like he's been pretty consistent these last couple of weeks. I guess, what have you seen from him that's kind of locked in?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with Mr. Wright is he's doing an unbelievable job with his preparation throughout the week, kind of understanding the returner that he's up against, because, again, that plays a major role in, how we go about what our process is, what type of balls do we want to hit. But I think he's done a great job with the preparation, watching the tape, really being very, very critical of his technique. When we're in our film sessions, there's a ton of two-way flow of communication going on, a lot of feedback going on, and he's been very, very receptive to that, which I appreciate as a coach. I'm seeing this, and right now between myself, him, the operation, Coach Gibson, there's a good connection going on amongst all of us to where we're all seeing the exact same thing, which is very encouraging.
What have you thought of Dallas Turner on special teams?
DT, again, I think DT is fully bought into what his role is and what his responsibility is, which is really rule number one. Getting these guys, these collegiate guys, coming in who, everyone comes in as an All-American. Everyone comes in as a high-profile guy. And the biggest thing is, especially for a guy who's never played special teams before in his life, you got to get him to buy into what we're doing, and he's fully submersed himself into that, and you appreciate that. You see the energy on the field, you see the effort, and now we just got to clean up, just small technique things, understanding hand placement, understanding how I need to be able to leverage certain returns or my blocks or getting off of blocks, defeating blocks, because it's a ton of space out there, and you don't really play in this big of a space, offense or defense, which is why it's like special teams being played in the ocean, just having good spatial awareness. But I think so far DT's done an unbelievable job for us, truly buying in, being physical at the point of attack, defeating blocks. There's been some ticky-tacky stuff kind of going on. He had the holding call the last game. I don't blame him because then that's a combative penalty, and he's just being physical at the point of attack, working his block there. But I think DT has done a great job just in terms of just his growth, especially from a punt protection standpoint. You get this guy, he's never seen it before, doesn't know what it looked like, and, can barely count to 3, and now he's picking up pick stunts and everything that you can imagine is getting thrown at him because he's a rookie. So quite naturally, they want to attack him week in and week out, and he's answered the call every single week. And that's the type of stuff that you don't see on tape, the type of stuff that doesn't get talked about. But he's doing an unbelievable job in punt protection, and so I'm grateful for him, and he's really enjoying the role that he's in.
Was that buy-in like right away? I mean, in the draft, everybody's telling him he's the best pass rusher in the country and whatnot, and then he's coming into the NFL, and the reality is like this is where he can contribute.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was a matter of a slow process. I wouldn't say that he wasn't necessarily not bought in when he first got here. It was more so him just understanding, again, as a coach, and I learned this really about 3-4 years ago. As a coach, it is my job to give a player clear job responsibility. And during OTAs, as everyone is kind of getting a feel for, who you are as a player, trying to figure out what specific roles are going to be, you're kind of putting guys kind of everywhere. That where they're kind of getting a plethora of everything. They're figuring out, okay, you're figuring out really the versatility of your guys. And once you really get into the season, training camp, that's when you really start to dial in on, okay, I see your job role being this. And so I wouldn't necessarily say when he first got here there wasn't a buy-in. I think it was a more so, just kind of feeling it out, seeing where does he fit best within the schematics of what we got going on. But it was never a situation for him to where it's like, I'm not going to be a special teams guy, or I'm too big, or I'm this and that. That was never the case. That was never the case.
What was that conversation like with the rest of the coaching staff in terms of how much you would have him on special teams versus his role on?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ben. I think that the biggest thing is it's always going to be a level of how much of a defensive role, a defensive capacity is he going to have? For instance, Blake going into the season OTAs, Blake Cashman was our starting left guard, right? But we also knew that Blake Cashman was going to be our starting Mike linebacker too, and so it's just a matter of, all right, well, how much leeway do we have of having a starter on the punt team, and so you kind of have those conversations, and there's a risk versus a reward. Punt is obviously the number one priority. From a special team phase standpoint, and so you obviously want to have your best players out there to secure the ball is getting punted, and you're eliminating any explosives happening from a return standpoint. And so, it boils down really to coaching staff, personnel, who they're comfortable with having out there. What's the emphasis from a special team standpoint? Do they care about it? Do they not? And, there's a heavy significance of pour-in and buy-in from, upper management of having the best players out there. And so, Flo was all good with it. KO's good with it. Quasi's like, yeah, if we need this player out there, there is no, this guy was a first round pick. He can't be out there all of a sudden because of where he was drafted at. That was never a thing within our organization. We're going to put the best players out there that's going to give us the best chance at winning.
Conversely, like how have you gone about deciding who's going to be on the kickoff team when knowing there's not a ton of like actual action?
Yeah, that's another good question. Again, you want to have your best players out there, but obviously you got to be smart with who's the returner. Is there an instance where you're looking to flip or gain some type of field position or gain some type of momentum? And so you got to be careful with the players that you're putting out there. What does the defensive snaps look like? And so, yeah, this is still a kind of quirky players kind of still getting worked out if you really look at what's going on around the league.
Colts haven't returned a ton of them, but they've had some success on the kick returns when they've done it. What do you think has led to that, for them having a few explosive returns?
They have really good personnel, across the board, and they got really skilled players. They got really linebackers who kind of fit a hybrid role of really good speed, good power, good size. And so when you got a good mix of those type of guys, it makes it really, really difficult. And they got fast returners back there between, Goodson and 16. Doolin. Those two guys are elite. I mean, we're talking 4-3 type of guys back there with good speed. You got really tough physical blockers up front, and so that makes it really was tough for those guys because you can match those hybrid linebackers up on safeties, receivers, bigger outside linebacker bodies, and when you're able to have that versatility as a blocker, it's really a lot that you can do with that.
Matt, obviously the last time you guys played the Colts was a pretty memorable game. What do you recall from that comeback and just the role that special teams played, not only going down 33-0, but then coming back in the second half?
Yeah, that was a. That game has a bad taste in my mouth, even though it was a part of history. There was a lot of things that went bad in that game from a special teams standpoint. And, you really look at it, the fast start by Indy was really a true result of special teams play. They had an explosive kickoff return. They blocked the punt. That resulted in a touchdown. We attempted a fake. They ended up getting that wasn't completed. They ended up getting 3 points off of that, and next thing you know, it's a 20-0 ball game just like that. And it was a result of special teams. But you look at the resilience that we had there. You look at Greg Joseph answering the bell on multiple kicks. KO staying true to just playing just good offensive football and not really kind of getting into this 2-minute mode, which is a great job by him. Defense finding a way to get stops. And, at the end of the day, we found ways to stack plays and put it all together. Going in at halftime down 33-0, it's not much you can truly say, other than, we're still in this. And, guys, again, had a belief. And we had a really good football team back then, a really well-connected football team back then that really kind of helped surge ourselves coming out of half to find a way to get that done. And, just little by little, we chipped away at it and found a way to have the biggest comeback in NFL history.
I think you guys hit a pass with Ryan Wright earlier that season, and then that one didn't go well in that game, and he hasn't attempted one since. Have you guys had any passes in for him since then, or was that kind of a forget it from there?
Nah, it's always in the game plan, something, that we prepare for, practice for. We always go into games, ready for any and everything. Trying to steal a possession is always kind of a goal of ours. So if we can find it, we'll take the opportunity of it. But, that to say that, we don't do it anymore because of that is, no, that's not the case. That's always kind of in the game plan.
You think Will could have made from 68 2 weeks ago?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Definitely, Dan. Yeah. He could have made that.
How much further out, to be honest?
73 was probably a little bit of a stretch. Last thing I want to send Will out there trying to, hammer the football, and now we got a pull growing as a result of it, or now, we're, the 73-yard would just been a little tough, especially not with any wind aid or anything like that. But I'm confident that 68-yarder could have definitely went through the uprights for sure, 70 even too. But had we not gotten the illegal formation and pushed us 5 yards back, we definitely would have sent Will out there, and the thrill would have been coming. So
Just as far as the kick return, it seemed like this week there were quite a few big returns from teams. Is there a trend that you're kind of seeing there where that's starting to pick up?
No, I think a lot of the returns that are happening is kind of getting back to the field, and guys are just losing leverage. At the end of the day, guys are working twist stunts, and coverage teams are kind of running into each other, and as a result of it, they're losing leverage really back to the backside over there. You're starting to see a little bit more double combinations that's taking place. But outside of that, again, it's still kind of up in the air with the play and what you're seeing, the schematics that's taking place. Fake reverses are starting to kind of come into play. You're seeing a little bit more double schemes coming to action, seeing a little bit more kind of guys getting cut free on the backside, just a little bit more, a lot more balls going back to the field. That's kind of hitting hay. You're seeing returns again. The Cincinnati return kind of hit right up the gut, right down the middle of the formation. So there's a lot of different areas in which it's happening in, but the scheme is different from week to week. There's a lot of variation.
Thanks, everybody.
Cool.